Okay, so this is a discussion, like I just explained a little bit, about heart coherence. Heart coherence is a new phenomenon recently discovered in the last 10 years through a group called HeartMath. I am in no way affiliated with HeartMath, but I just love the research that they're going into. And it's a really exciting time for sort of expanded awareness on what our relationship with our body actually is. I'll go into in depth what I am feeling about this time and stuff like that, but all of this information is backed by scientific evidence and rigorous testing. So it really is providing the ground for us to reshape our understanding of the way that we can relate to ourselves, relate to each other, and relate to the world, which we will see. So to start, we are going to just dive right into just a tiny bit of what HeartMath calls heart lock-in technique. So this is a focused breathing exercise that I hope everybody wants to join me in doing really quickly to help connect you to your heart. So if everybody can sit up in a comfortable position and get into a meditative sort of state of mind with a couple of breaths. So we're going to start by breathing in deeply and breathing out. Go ahead and close your eyes and breathe in and out. Breathing in one more time and breathing out. And now bring your awareness down into your heart. Continue breathing and bring that awareness into your heart and try to imagine that focal point of awareness moving down into your heart space. So continue breathing deeply and breathe into your heart. So breathe, imagine you're breathing through your chest. There's a gust of wind coming through your chest on the out breath and you're pushing it out in front of you. For me, it helps to breathe heat into the heart space. And now activate a compassionate feeling in your heart space. That can be love, appreciation, care, or compassion for somebody else or something else. Just feel that emotion while you're breathing into your heart space, feeling that emotion swell through your heart. Feel that love. And feel it expand outwards. See if you can feel it expand beyond the limits of your skin. Push it out of your immediate space and into the room around you. And see if you can keep radiating that feeling of love or compassion or care out into even further into the space around you, the world around you, all the living plants, animals, and everything around you. Just feel that love and compassion. Still breathing in and out through your heart. All right. So everybody, if you can come back to a nice attentive awareness, coming back to our bodies, and open your eyes, and we're back. So that feeling that we all just activated together, that's called heart coherence. And what we're going to explore here is the way that that feeling actually affects our physiology and the energetic space around us, which we'll go into detail with. So continuing on. So my basic understanding of this whole time is that we're living in a time of movement, of shift from a brain-centered culture. It's very apparent that we sort of idolize the brain as the center of consciousness. And what we're coming to realize through science, and you'll hear me say in our discoveries, we're rediscovering all of this stuff, because the ancient wisdom of the Mayans, the Aztecs, the Egyptians, the Indian tribes, Native American tribes, and in India, they all recognize the heart as the center. The Aborigine people, they believe that their gut is their first brain, their heart is their second brain, and they only go up here to solve problems. And we have pretty much locked ourselves. You'll see I say in here, a psychic center point has been moved up here. And that's not to say that that's a bad thing necessarily. There's a physiological reason that we did this, which I'll explain here. When we were in ancient Greece, for example, the right and our left hemispheres were not connected in the same way that they are today. The corpus callosum, which is the sort of barrier or the connective tissue between the brain, was not as physical or not as present as it is today. And so it's called a bicameral mind, and people would hear a voice in their heads and they would think that it was the voice of a god or a demon or some other voice. And today we recognize that voice as either the voice of our conscience or our own internal monologue. And they didn't really have a sense of their own internal monologue. So you can see that physiologically, we needed to evolve into a different state of awareness in order to usher in a new state of consciousness. Only I believe we've reached the zenith of that level of progression. And now it's up to us to move out of that state of mind and into a state of being that's more holistic and more integrated. So so my personal experience of this, of moving out of my mind, it happened through a series of experiences, but I'll describe one here. I was sitting in a deep meditation and I was breathing deeply. And when I would breathe into a certain area, I would feel relaxation come into that area and stay there. And so I just kept pushing this relaxation down and down and down through my entire body. And when my whole body filled up, when thoughts would come into my mind, I could move my psychic center point down into my body. And during this process, the thoughts that were going on in my head were, I heard them as an inner monologue, as I came down here, it slowly got quieter and quieter and quieter to the point where it just became the reverberations of the thoughts, the same syncopation as the thoughts, but I couldn't actually hear the thoughts themselves. And I felt myself moving into this space. And so this space actually is a second, there's multiple different neurological centers in the body, not just the brain, but this could be considered the second brain, as well as the gut, as well as the liver. They all have neurological connections, and we're going to explore the heart in this one. So there are 4 methods of communication for the heart. The first one is neurological. The heart actually sends 3 times as much information to the brain than the brain does to the heart. And so you can imagine that the heart is sort of the first line of interpretation for the entire body. And the brain is actually decoding the information that's sent by the heart. And so if you can control your breath and your heart, you can actually control your feeling, which changes the way that you think. So it's much harder to change the way you think and then change the way you feel than to change the way that you feel to change the way you think. The second is the blood pressure wave, which is the way that the heart sends hormonal information through the body. That's the more traditional sense or idea of what the heart does, is a mechanical blood pump. And we'll see that there's much more than that, but that definitely is a really important way that the heart tries to communicate with the body if we're paying attention. And sometimes even not, it can be unconscious too. In 1983, the heart was reclassified as a part of the hormonal system because it produces many different hormones. One of them that I included here is called atrial peptide, which reduces cortisol, which is the stress hormone. So the heart is actually responsible for subduing stress if you put it in the right state of being. And the last one, which we're going to explore in depth here, is electrical. The heart creates an electromagnetic field around the entire body, which permeates all of the cells, and it also extends beyond the cells into a field around you that extends to about 4 feet, and you can extend it even further through meditative practice and trying to expand that heart space, which is what we did in the beginning. That process is the process of expanding your electromagnetic field. And we're going to talk about what the EMF actually does and how it informs the body. So this moves us from physiology, from biology to physics, because we have the possibility to influence the energy around us more than just being these isolated bodies. We are actually interconnected in this web, so to speak. Like I said, this is explaining, and there's an image there that shows you this energetic field. That's a little bit of an artistic description, but there are two, these are called toroid fields. They look like donuts, and there's a smaller one and a larger one. So if somebody comes into your personal space through an intimate, connection, you're getting into a denser field of energy than this one, but this is your personal bubble, so to speak. And it's funny how we have these colloquial sayings that actually describe things that we're just realizing again through our science and our tools. So as we'll see here, your electromagnetic field is determined, the consistency or the quality that you're bringing about in your world is determined by the emotions that you're feeling. So you could either bring harmony to your environment or discord to your environment. So yeah, human beings are not limited to fight, flight, or freeze responses like animals, and we can instead choose to engage in pro-social behaviors. For example, if you learn how to breathe, what I wrote here is your breathing sort of serves as your eyes for your heart, and it determines the state of being in your entire body through your breath. So if you are startled, your breath will shorten and your heart will understand that as an attack and will, trigger fight or flight, which triggers your sympathetic nervous system. But if you are, practicing in meditation or other means of personal mastery, you have an opportunity to recognize what is happening in your body and consciously shift it to a different state. So from sympathetic nervous system, which is fight or flight, you can actively switch on your parasympathetic nervous system, which is your relaxation and rejuvenation. So this is what we just did here. In the beginning, we went through the, I don't expect everybody to come on here in frustration. Everybody's having a good time here, obviously. But when you are frustrated, your heart rhythms are very staggered and irregular. And that is causing a lot of cortisol to be released into your body, which reduces the strength of your immune system and other things that aren't necessarily good. And the appreciation, on the other hand, that is, you can see it's a very regular patterning, and that allows your heart to sort of govern your body in a state of peace, which opens up your higher perceptual awareness, because when you're triggered into fight or flight, your brain pretty much shuts down the higher centers and focuses all the blood into the lower, what's normally called the reptilian brain. and you no longer have access to higher awareness, which is why, when you get into an argument with somebody and you're triggered by them, you don't normally say the things that you would say, and you're always thinking afterwards like, oh, I wish I said this, I wish I said this. So if you're able to learn how to regulate your heart and regulate your breathing during these states, if you can stay in that state of, anchor yourself in that state of peace and tranquility and compassion, then you're actually projecting out this, this harmony. And as we'll see in the interpersonal aspect of this, it actually is influencing them. So you can stabilize them through stabilizing yourself. So there's 3 stages. All these sort of happen at the same time, but I think it's just nice to look at the 3 different stages of heart coherence. So the first is a positive emotion. As we experienced, you feel that compassion, you're breathing it through your heart, and you're radiating it out into your space. The next is inner and outer coherence. So heart coherence is the process of literally connecting your heart as an information vessel to your brain, and they work in synchronous as one cooperative organism rather than 2 disconnected organisms. So when you're out of coherence, those 2 are working independently of each other. When you're in coherence, they're working together. And then the next one is inner and outer harmony. As we'll see, this field is projecting out of us. So if we are balancing in harmony, we have the possibility and the capability to be able to radiate that harmony into the space around us. And if any of you have been around a spiritual master or a very well-versed practitioner of this, you feel their infectious sort of peace and tranquility. And that, on a scientific level, this is what's happening. They are radiating this state of tranquility into their field, and it is literally channeling into your field, and you're having that sort of nonverbal, energetic conversation. So this is what the field looks like, as I showed you. On a personal level, this determines the stability of your physiology. Like I said, it doesn't just go out in a field, but it literally permeates through all your cells. So all of your cells are reading this information that's coming from your heart as a way to inform its state of being. So if you have feelings of, heartfelt, colloquially, heartfelt feelings like compassion and, peace and tranquility, that will regulate your body in a way that brings it into all of your cells and informs your cells of what's happening in the body. It sort of provides the energetic eyes for your body to be able to see what's happening in your world. On the other side, feeling negative emotions like anger, anxiety, and frustration bring on an incoherent state, which causes the, as we saw in the wave patterning, that it makes you less adaptable to life, and it, releases cortisol, which reduces the strength of your immune system and puts you into fight or flight. So I can just move this. The personal process. So like I explained, this process is started by holding those heartfelt feelings and evoking that heart-centered breath. So this is called the heart lock-in technique. And if you do this regularly, you will find that your perception moves from your heart, or from your head to your heart. And you can actually feel this as a physiological phenomenon, which we'll dive into at the end of this presentation. We'll do another meditation where we move into our heart space in a more esoteric meditation. So this brings up some interesting questions, like how does my field relate to your field? And how does a collected field in the room all relate to each other? And how does that field relate to the larger world? And so that's what we're going to go into next. Oops. So you can see with this handy dandy graphic that I found on this website that our fields are always interrelating with each other, whether we're aware of it or not, and informing us. a personal anecdote here is one time I remember I was sitting at the table with my family, and my brother disclosed to my family that he got a bad grade on his report card. And my dad looked at me, and, you know, I'd been doing this meditation and all this stuff, and I felt his anger come into my space and try to evoke anger in me. And instead of being angry, because I had no reason to be angry, and instead I would rather keep the peace in the situation, I decided to not be influenced by that, and instead anchor further into my peace and my, you know, sense of presence in that space. And it was able to sort of de-escalate the situation in a way that it wouldn't have if I had just absorbed his, you know, energy and then became angry too for no reason. Just because I was aware of that, I was able to de-escalate the situation without even saying anything. It's just an energetic sort of presence that you have. So yeah, so one of the things that I want to bring up here is all people are acoustic tuning forks, and they also are playing a note. So if you hit an acoustic tuning fork and you hold another acoustic tuning fork next to it, this one will start vibrating because this one is sending waves to this one. So human beings are very much like that. They are absorbing the energy from other people and also projecting their own energy. So if you are able to play your own note and understand that you are constantly radiating this note of harmony or compassion out of your body, it has the possibility to transform the lives of other people. The way that this is being used today in businesses and in the military is people are consciously activating group flow states by radiating heart coherence to everybody in the room. And it's so powerful that, as we'll see, it has a non-local effect. So you can send your love and compassion to other people that aren't even in your space. And they've done this as an experiment where, you know, somebody was feeling heart coherence and they sent it to a person in a different room, and that person just entered into heart coherence without doing any of the breathing or anything like that. So on an even broader scale, there have been these studies of global coherence where one example that I found that I thought was phenomenal is in Palestine and Israel, they did a global coherence initiative meditation where participants held compassionate feelings for their enemies. And during that time, and for a short period afterwards, the crime rate in the surrounding area dropped to 0. And they've done this several times, and it's, you know, scientifically verified in their research that there is a radiant effect of a group of people that goes far beyond their local space and can actually radiate into an entire city. I don't have the exact number of this, but the other example is in Thailand, there's a 1 million child meditation that happens every year. And they were studying the effect that this has on the electromagnetic field of the Earth, because we have our own electromagnetic field, but the Earth has its own electromagnetic field. And after you start to understand this stuff, I think it becomes very apparent that human beings are sort of a radio antenna for the Earth. And so if we are able to hold these emotions, we're able to influence the Earth in a really real way. And even further than that, they found that when the 1 million children did their meditation, the sun flares reduced to an all-time low for 7 days. So it's not just a local thing, it's much, much broader than that. And we have the capability to influence our reality and our local solar system in a way that we normally would think is preposterous. But through this scientific research, it's pretty apparent that the way that we hold ourselves and our emotions has a direct effect on the world that we are creating. So by holding compassion, holding peace, and mastering our states of being, we have the possibility and, in my opinion, the responsibility to bring the earth back into harmony and bring ourselves into harmony. So now we're going to dive a little bit into the esoteric aspects of the heart. This is from a book called Living in the Heart by Drunvalo Melchizedek. And it is about there's a place called the still point in the center of the heart, and every esoteric and, tribal society, they recognize this as a space. I'll read an excerpt. I'm not sure if I have it on the next slide or later down the pike, but let's just go and we'll see. Yes, we do. Okay, so close your eyes and get into the poetry feel, because this is some poetry. I'm going to just take a little sip of water here. Okay. If someone says to you, in the fortified city of the imperishable, our body, there is a lotus, and in this lotus is a tiny space. What does it contain that one should desire to know it? You must reply, as vast as the space without is the tiny space within your heart. Heaven and earth are found in it, fire and air, sun and moon, lightning and the constellations. Whatever belongs to you here below, and all that doesn't, all this is gathered within that tiny space within your heart. That's from the Chandogya Upanishad, which is, the Upanishads is a Vedic text that was practiced by rishis in the mountains of India, and was only disseminated to them in small groups. Now it's available for $4 on Amazon, a great buy. Oops. Okay, so in this book, he talks about the two different polarities and the ways to enter the heart from those two different polarities. Masculine and feminine here are not relating to genders. You can do the masculine way if you're in a female body, and you can do the female or the feminine way if you're in a male body. It's just where you're sort of at in your practice, and whatever works for you. So the masculine way is, I'm just going to read this. This is an excerpt from it, and I don't want to botch it, so I'm just going to read it. So as you move towards the heart, so you're imagining this toroidal field, and as you move towards the heart in your meditation, you're seeing the energy rise up in the field until you see the torus, and the energy field is like a vortex. Imagine it swirling and moving up and down like a three-dimensional double-sided vortex kind of thing. And for this meditation, when you see the top of the toroidal field, you'll feel like you're a leaf that's floating on that. So you're focusing your attention on the energy that's moving around you, and you experience yourself going around and around this field. And then you get closer and closer to the center, and it starts to speed up, and you go into your smaller toroidal field, and eventually you will feel the still point sort of activate, and you can move into that space, like he says, like being in the center of the eye of a hurricane. So that's a masculine way of doing that. If you guys are interested, I'll just share this this PowerPoint with you at the end, so you can do your thing. The feminine way to enter the sacred heart is much easier, and I think you'll find, if you're a spiritual practitioner, that the feminine way just makes way more sense than the masculine way, and guys try way too hard. But the feminine way is, it's so simple. He says it's so simple that he couldn't see it at first, but I wrote people. The instructions are pretty easy, and it'll be different for each of you, but it's not important whether you're male or female. So for the feminine way, all you do is see and sense or feel yourself approaching the heart. And then you just move into the membrane of the heart like you do in the masculine, except this time you let your intuition guide your attention into the sacred space of the heart. And then you let go and move, knowing that you're going straight into this holy place. So the masculine is about imagining, in my opinion, and the feminine is about relaxing and releasing into the guidance of the larger force of your intuition, and it's just a lot easier. But you know, if you think the masculine is good for you, then you can do that. All right. So we are going to do a little bit of breathing meditation from this book here. So if everybody can get into a nice meditative pose, we are going to do our best to enter the sacred space of the heart here. So go ahead and close your eyes and feel the love for Mother Earth and Father Sky. So if you close your eyes, reach your attention down into the earth and feel the heartbeat of the earth sending love back up to you. So you're stretching down and it's coming right back up with just as much or even more love than you're sending down. Deep, deep breaths here. On the exhale, feel that love shooting down into the earth. And now holding that love, feel it shoot up into the sky. Feel that love connecting to the sun. You are standing in the middle of the Sacred Father and the Sacred Mother. You are the sacred child. And now feeling yourself moving down from your head. Feel that central focus point move down through your throat and move towards your heart. And begin to hum the sound coming from your heart. With your intention, allow yourself to be guided to the small space within the Sacred Heart. And feel that love radiating from your heart. Feel the depth of that love. You're standing in between the worlds. All right. You can open your eyes, come back to your space, and feel, see if you can hold that love, that feeling. When you're ready, just open your eyes and we'll come back. So I'm going to read this again, and maybe this takes on a new life for you guys. If someone says to you, in the fortified city of the imperishable, our body, there is a lotus, and within this lotus there is a tiny space. What does it contain that one should desire to know it? You must reply, as vast as the space without is the tiny space within your heart. Heaven and earth are found in it. Fire, air, sun and moon, lightning and constellations. Whatever belongs to you here below, and all that doesn't, is gathered in that tiny space within your heart. We did it. We did it, fam. Nice. All right, I'm gonna, how do I stop sharing my screen? There we go. Stop. Stop sharing. All right, we got an audience member here named Fergus, and he is having a good time in the background. But I would love to hear your guys' feelings. We can sort of open this up now to a discussion or any revelations that came through for you guys. If anybody feels called to share, just go ahead and do it. And if not, then I guess we're having a good time to sign you out.
It was very interesting in terms of how you were talking about the masculine and the feminine, and how the masculine, the technique that is used is basically external, like a male, and all of the things that were more simple and more streamlined in terms of ease of use on the female side was internal. So it was fascinating to me how that translates into this as well.
Yeah, it's really an interesting point. I love that. Yeah, and I think being guided by your intuition is one of the great movements of the time. I personally used to be, one of the great realizations that I had was that the world that you can construct from your mind is much, much smaller than the one that is constructed for you if you follow your heart and your intuition. And I think what people of spiritual practices are starting to find, if not they're living by this as a law, is oh man, my friend was waiting in the waiting room. Oh geez. Well, he missed it. Oh no. Okay. I'll have to give him a solo presentation later. But yeah, the feeling that you're not just doing this on your own. You are being guided, and the universe is sort of meeting you halfway if you know what to listen to and how to sort of feel into that. And that's a very, in my opinion, that's a very feminine mode of being in the world, is sort of relaxing and releasing into the world rather than constructing it.
I personally really liked that phrase that it says, be firm in your peace so you aren't coursed into incoherence, because I feel like, to me, that's personally like the hardest thing, is like being able to be so grounded and be at peace within yourself that wherever you are, that people might not have that for themselves, like get you to the energies of themselves. So if anything, like, do you guys have any personal like strategies that you apply to always, regardless of as strong as other people's energies are, that you remain like at peace within yourself? Because to me that's like really hard, especially like being surrounded by very intense, I mean, I'm Mexican, all my family is very loud, like, so it's like, to me it's like, oh, I want to be able to just maintain my peace within all these environments that you are in.
Does anybody want to share any practices that they do to stay in their peace?
I can share.
Sure.
It's funny, we were talking about this in our last call that I saw you on, Jack. Something that I really love to do that kind of keeps me grounded into however I'm feeling and not absorbing the surrounding energy and information that I'm receiving, and really like holding into my beliefs and my inner feelings. I'm a sponge, so I'm really easily absorbed like whatever's going on around me. And something that I've learned that is a little bit more tangible, there's so many exercises out there that kind of are hard to do while you're in action. But this one that I like to do is kind of when you breathe, and this can be like in any situation. I do it in the middle of conversations. I like to breathe in, and I imagine that I'm breathing all of my air in through me and breathing it straight through my root. And as I'm breathing out, I'm letting that air continue to breathe down and really ground me back into that root. So it's a lot of like really pushing that air down. It's hard to explain, but it really does help, and it helps just connect you to like your center and not feel so around, like, you know, out of your own head. Hard.
Beautiful. Jess, I think you wanted to share something as well. I can't hear you. I don't know why. Can you guys hear her?
No.
Oh. You want to try joining or quitting and joining again? That'll do. Stand by for technical difficulties.
I think next to the mute button, there is a little arrow and you can select a different microphone. Maybe it's not through external, or I don't know. I don't know if Jess can hear us. Oh, connecting to audio.
I can't hear you. Alejandra said if you click on the microphone next to mute and you go to, you can check like a microphone.
Yeah.
Like I have built-in microphone, internal microphone.
Or you could put what you were saying in the chat. I'm going to read it.
Yeah. Can you write us a quick essay? Okay.
No.
All right. You could share it with me and I'll share it with Alejandra. How about that?
Thank you guys for sharing.
Yeah. Does anybody else have any insights or questions or anything they want to share? Yeah, Emmy, go for it. I believe in you.
So I just wanted to share a little bit more to the practice of staying grounded while other things are happening around us. I think the meditation that we actually just did helps a lot. And I'm also like very empathic, and I observe everyone's feelings, especially like my family, especially with family. That's, I think, where we get tested the most. So I think just coming down to the heart center and breathing through it, and like sending that, like, it's like meta love, you know, sending whatever that person that's getting on your nerves or whatever you're going through, and sending them that love and staying within that heart center really helps.
Yeah, just to add to that, there's a Tibetan practice that I learned a while ago that that master practitioners do, that I was doing for a while. Not that I'm a master practitioner in any means, but it was an interesting mode of being, where you would breathe in, and when you breathe in, you imagine you're breathing in all the darkness from all the people around you. And then when you localize that in your heart space, and you see a yin and a yang flowing in your heart space, and slowly, still on the in-breath, you see that be wrapped in light, in the white of the yin-yang, and overcome with white of light. And then you breathe out light to everybody around you. And you know, I've had incredible experiences doing that around animals, especially because I feel like they only speak the language of energy. So they're very much aware of that. And, you know, like animals I've literally had a dog bow to me on the, you know, as a way of like expressing gratitude for that. And, you know, so there is.
That sounds really powerful. Yeah.
It's
Do you know the name of this technique?
I should look up the name of it, but no, I didn't.
Yeah, I definitely want to try that for
Yeah.
sure.
The one thing I would say though is it can, it like how we're talking about being influenced by other people, literally breathing in their darkness can be dangerous because
Yeah.
you're letting that emotion into your heart, which if you're not fully present and you don't feel that completely wrapped in light and dissolved,
Hmm.
then it's going to permeate through you. So there's a
Right.
real so one of the things that I would say is, you know, we just felt the love of the mother and the father come into you.
Hmm.
That is an infinite source of love. So if you can channel that instead and then send that out, you're not actually using your own energy. You're using the energy of the world around you as a means to clear the space. So there's a
That's actually, yeah. Thanks for pointing that out. Yeah.
happy to do it.
So it's literally grabbing, like breathing in the other person's energy, but then like, even if it's negative, just like doing the yin yang of it. So you clear that for them and for yourself,
Right.
like for the space of both.
Yeah.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. There's a practice called Ho'oponopono, which I will type because it's fun to type. Ho'opono. Pono. So this is a practice, a Hawaiian practice, and if you look that up, you'll see there's like 4 stages. And if I remember correctly, it's basically you take on the situation, you take full responsibility for the situation, and you dissolve it and send it back as love. So you say, "I'm sorry, thank you," or "I'm sorry, please forgive me, thank you, I love you." And that practice is taking in the energy, taking full responsibility, even if it's not your deal. You're taking it in, you're dissolving it, and you're sending it back. There was a psychiatrist or a psychologist who was a leader of a psych ward that was in complete disarray, and he started doing this practice, and he saw incredible results in his patients. So it has this sort of radiant effect. You know, I do it personally when I'm on a gig, like I do freelance video stuff, and oftentimes I'll be in a space where there's a lot of stress. So that's an opportunity for me just to dissolve the stress in the space. And you'll feel it immediately. Like if you're perceptive of this, you will feel like people start treating each other very differently immediately because you're literally radiating love into all of them. So it's a great practice. Any other thoughts or things?
I think the global coherence initiative you were talking about, like the kids meditating and stuff, I think that's huge, especially with what's going on right now in society, and like everybody's shifting their mindsets to like a similar frequency of like awareness and like, oh my God, like this has been fucked up, and you know how to make things better and like good for everyone. So I wonder if there are ways to help deconstruct those social constructs that are part of like this. I mean, I don't know how to explain, but like if everybody were to use this time of awareness to kind of look into um, more of the energies of the things, instead of just like historical movements to help, you know, what's going on in society, but like switch gears into diving into more of the esoteric but scientific aspect of it. Like, I don't know if you guys think that we would get there sooner than later, or like how do you guys see this movement tapping into that other part of like a social conscience and like a global coherence more or so. I
Yeah.
hope that makes sense.
I think that's amazing insight. Does anybody want to share any thoughts on that? I have some thoughts, but I'd love other people to share as well. All right, I'll jump in then. So yeah, I think that is super powerful. Like personally, I think that everything starts in the energetic first, and then comes down into the physical. So in the case of diseases, right? Like a disease will start as a stress, and then enter your body into the physical. So it starts in the thought, it comes into your body as tension. If that tension isn't resolved, then it becomes a disease, a literal disease. So in the case of you know, the racial tensions and things like that, I think that there's a lot of physical action that needs to be taken, like reworking a lot of the systems that we've constructed to disproportionately benefit some and completely negate the benefits of others. You know, there's a lot of things that have to happen in the physical in order for us to change things. That being said, I feel like the point of this level of awareness is to go out into those situations where you know people need the healing and do your work. I mean, it's a radiant healing effect that you can have on people. And yeah, at scale, this has the capability to shift, you know, the consciousness of the planet. Another thought that comes to mind is this concept of the 100 monkey experiment. And what that is they were studying these monkeys on this island. They found that when monkeys started cleaning their food before they ate it, other monkeys on their local island started doing it. And when it reached 100 monkeys, all the monkeys on all the other islands that were close to it started doing it as well. And what the takeaway was, they did experiments on humans, which are not experiments on humans, but tests with humans, where they showed, and I think this was in the 40s before there was the internet or international broadcasting. They had this image with 100 faces on it, and people could only find like 5 or 6 of the faces. And then they took it over to England. They showed it on television there, and they showed each, you know, 100 of the faces. And when they brought it back to Australia, nobody had seen it, obviously, because there was no way to see it internationally, and they could find all 100 of the faces. So the takeaway is there's an interconnectedness to our consciousness that goes beyond the physical confines, as we've just demonstrated through, you know, global coherence and you know, expanding your field to larger and larger areas. So yeah, I think this has a radiant effect, and it honestly doesn't take that many people to shift the consciousness. If it takes 100 monkeys to shift the consciousness of 1,000 monkeys, if it takes one nation to shift the consciousness of another nation, then there's a real opportunity for a small group of people to make change in their local community, in their family, and then, you know, in their family, the local community, and then radiate outwards towards the larger community. Right on, guys. If nobody has any questions, we're rounding up to 9 o'clock, and that's our end time. So I guess if nobody has any more questions, I'll just close the space, and we'll go on with our lives with this new information and do good work.
Thank you so much.
Oh,
Thank you.
Yeah, my pleasure, guys. It's really an honor to be sharing this. I'm glad that it's resonating. So
That's lovely.
cool. All right, so I guess we can just close. We have 1 minute. We can do another heart lock-in technique and just end the day with being in heart coherence. How about that? All right. So if everybody wants to get into a nice meditative pose and close their eyes and focus on your breath, breathe in, breathe a deep, deep breath, fill your belly and your lungs up to the top, and breathe out and in again and out. And big breath in. Now bring your focus down to your heart space and imagine that your breath is flowing in and out of your heart. And breathe. Try to breathe a little deeper. Breathe heat too into your heart space on the exhale. Now, holding that awareness, activate a regenerative feeling of love, compassion, appreciation, or kindness for yourself or for another. It's easy to bring somebody you love into your mind and hold your love for them in your mind and in your heart. And now feel yourself expand outwards. Expand that feeling of love out of the confines of your skin, outwards into your field, into your space around you. Breathing a deep breath in and out, and in. And on the out breath, expand that even further to the life around you, to all the grass, the plants, and the animals, the rocks, everything around you, other people. And feel all of that love come back into the center of your heart space. Feel your heart filled to the brim with love. And now bring your attention back to your physicality, back to your fingers. You can move your fingers and your toes and shimmy a little bit. And we did it. Good job, everybody. All right. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I love each and every one of you. You're all my best friends. I'm so glad that we got a chance to hang out together. Sam, I'm sorry I didn't see that. I didn't see you wanted to get in, so I missed inviting you. But if you want, I can send you the PowerPoint. Anybody who wants, if you want to reach out to me on Instagram or whatever, I'll send you this the slide deck, and you can do whatever you want with it. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye-bye.